This is where I fell after I got hit. And I felt this like... There's a heat. Yeah, burns, man. Hurts physically.
Sometimes to play the game, you have to make a sacrifice for the greater good. You have to use all the pawns around you, the knights, the bishops, and the rooks, but for the sole purpose of taking out the king. And it works the same in the street game. No leader we've seen before in power have got to where they've got to without making sacrifices. For example, Ghost had to sacrifice Kanan, Tommy had to sacrifice his queen Holly to save Ghost, and Ghost Queen later had to sacrifice herself to save Ghost, because that's the role of a queen, protect the king. And the rules of the game haven't changed. What you'll notice about the street game is, the game is the same for everyone. People may have certain advantages because they come from better positions and privileged circumstances, but once you get into the street, everybody is sticking to the same rules. Unfortunately for Drew, whether he wants to be in the game or not, he doesn't have a choice, and he also has to stick by the same rules. Now, Clue in the recent Ghost Season 3 teaser showed us a hooded Drew Tejada looking battered and bruised, but it is a familiar scene we've seen before in Season 2. Drew was tasked with killing someone close to him, Everett, but he was stopped in his tracks by a message from Ev himself. Going into Season 3, the problems remain. Ev is still breathing and he's a threat, but Drew's changing, and Kino and Lil Guap were two characters who felt his wrath. So in this video, we're going to be dissecting Drew's character, past, present, and future, along with some theories and a wildcard prediction for Power Book 2 Ghost Season 3. When we were introduced to Drew, it was clear he was someone who was stuck in two worlds, one of them being in the Tejada organization. Lorenzo and Monet were honest with who they were and what line of work they were in, and just like Kane and Diana, Drew also had a role. At different stages of Season 1, Monet had her kids playing different positions, and often it was in conflict with Lorenzo's.
Send Drew to talk to him.
Drew ain't gonna convince Guap of nothing, but Kane can handle it.
I didn't say Kane. I said Drew. Call me when it's done.
Lorenzo wanted Drew to handle the situation with Guap because he knew Kane could be unpredictable. Sometimes he makes moves without thinking about the consequences. Ironically, something Lorenzo was guilty of when he accidentally killed Zeke, so it's probably easy to see where Kane gets it from. But this situation showed Drew wasn't ready, along with not finishing Guap the first time he had the chance. But one thing he did show was, Drew has a dark side, waiting to be unleashed. Slowly we've been watching humanity being sucked out of Drew, with game-changing moment coming in episode 9 when he was shot by Rico, but we do have to look at both perspectives. As much as it changed Drew, he made a silly mistake when they were facing a lot of gunfire, so in my opinion, he does have to take a fair share of the blame. But closing Drew's story arc in Season 1, he had a weakness, which was Ev. The two worlds which he was stuck in at the beginning were always going to collide. He showed he had this dark side waiting to be unleashed, and just like Lorenzo said, he was destined to take over the Tejada organization. In Season 2, Drew was very much in recovery, and what made things more complex was the fact he was unable to do the one thing he loved, draw. This was Drew's escape from reality, and early on it was evident that every single door was closing in on Drew, until we get to the point where he's only left with one, accepting his destiny and being the leader of the Tejadas. Now, despite his pain, he was still able to think 3 moves ahead. When Monet was looking to protect him and Diana, they were done taking orders from Monet and living a life based on how she wanted them to live.
What you talking about when you leave the city? Auntie Monet ain't gonna let y'all go anywhere.
That's not what she's saying. She had us all thinking this whole NBA shit was just her retirement plan, but now it's her exit strategy from the whole thing. Wherever you get drafted, she's gonna have us all follow.
This was Drew deliberately leaking Monet's plan for the Tejadas to Zeke, knowing full well Zeke would be against it. Being a controlling mother and dictating every single aspect and move of your kids is only eventually going to backfire, especially when they become older and start to have minds of their own, which circles back to the beginning of the video. The rules of the game are the same for everyone, but what differentiates people is their ability to play the game better than the other, and Drew was showing he was calculated, getting others to do the work for him. The move was also similar to what Diana did with the powdered sugar move, when she used it to get Tariq to owe her a favor, which she then used to get to Davis McLean, who had Cooper Saxe work on Lorenzo's release. So as you watch Season 2 again, you'll actually begin to realize how Drew and Diana were moving in a very similar manner, and it was thanks to Monet trying to have have this level of control, but because of distractions, she didn't realize she lost this control. So these were two characters who were beginning to turn, and in fact, throughout majority of season 2, you could even say each Tejada was out for themselves. They were always looking at what they wanted, how they wanted to do things, and that's why they always find themselves in conflict. So are we surprised what was supposed to be an exciting homecoming caused a divide and a split with the Tejadas?
I'm trying to give you this game so you can sustain and put Diana and Kane in position so you can run this shit. There's no time for distractions, Drew, especially for civilians in this game.
In the second half of the season, we saw Drew return to the same spot where he was shot, and you could see how much it affected him. He looked colder in his eyes and someone who wouldn't take the same risk as he did before. Because as they say, when you make a mistake, play the game back and analyze where you went wrong, so the next time you play, you won't make the same mistake. And someone who is mentoring and nurturing Drew was Lorenzo. He saw the way Drew and Ev looked at each other during his homecoming, and he knew instantly, which is another reason why we saw Lorenzo push Drew to take on more responsibility, one which caused conflict with Kane, something I'll come to later. But with Drew taking the lead, he told Lorenzo the only way forward was to get rid of Kino, something which Drew did himself by taking the kill shot. Killing Guap is also something he had to do, because he told Kane the only way he was coming on board with his plan to rob Mecca was if he took the kill shot on Guap, something which Kane raised his eyebrows to because he didn't believe Drew had what it takes. But that's the beauty of being underestimated by your enemies, they'll never see you coming, so sometimes it's best to speak less and only talk when it's ready to say checkmate. And so we saw Drew turn into this character of rage and anger and did what Kane should have done in season 1, kill Guap and leave no loose ends. But one still does remain.
This one time I'll let you ask me about my affairs.
So this one time, you can ask me whatever you want about my family.
Now Corny Kemp likened his character to Michael Corleone, and the evolution of Michael Corleone was one which was fueled by heartbreak, and it's hard not to see the same thing for Drew. Ev is a character who knows a lot about the Tejadas, what line of work they're in, and also someone who's being questioned by Whitman, and it's only a matter of time before Ev gets pulled deeper into the game, because like Scrappy once said in Raising Kanan, everyone's in the game.
She not in the game anyway. Everyone in the game.
So as we move into Power Book 2 Ghost Season 3, Drew's got a lot of tough decisions to make, with one of them being Ev. In one of my previous videos, I broke down the investigation aspect from law enforcement and how Detective Whitman seems to have seen a major clue, clothes on the floor in Ev's dorm room, and although this could be anyone, I wouldn't be surprised to see Whitman connecting the dots to Drew Tejada. So when and if he does, can Drew risk having Ev around who knows more than he should? This is where we circle it back to the beginning of the video and the topic of sacrifices. If Drew doesn't have it in him to kill Ev, then this decision may be taken out of his hands. Kane is someone who's not afraid to take things into his own hands, sometimes for the good of the Tejadas and sometimes for the bad. And I wouldn't be surprised if this was another death that Kane took into his own hands. But another death at Stansfield really would raise questions. So can the Tejadas really risk taking out another from Stansfield? Which is why they do need to weigh up the risk factor. Can he cause more damage alive than dead? That's only a question that can be answered in Season 3. But for Drew's character development, I think we all know the answer. Now I was asked to create some wildcard theories based on my last video, and I do think it's a great idea, especially because you can never tell which direction Power will go in. Although the game is the same, we have a new showrunner, potentially a new Connect, new players, and that makes certain elements of Season 3 pretty unpredictable. But based on history, we've seen a familiar theme, and it's a theme which I'm not a huge fan of myself, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it again, and that's the father and son killing theme. Could Monet ask Drew to kill Lorenzo? We all know Drew is destined to be the leader of the Tejadas, something which Kane won't be too happy to hear, but it is the truth, hence why there's tension between the two brothers in Season 2. But with Kane showing he doesn't have what it takes, and with Monet finding out Lorenzo's the one who killed Zeke, if she doesn't kill him herself, could she ask Drew? So with that being said, drop all your thoughts and theories down below on all things Drew Tejada. Does killing Ev solve his problem, or is there more risk associated with killing him? And could Drew have a hand to play if Lorenzo is killed? Because I do think Lorenzo is a top pick for many to catch a hot one in Season 3. So drop all your thoughts down below in the comment section, and of course if you are new to the channel and you haven't done so already, then remember to smash the subscribe button if you want to see everything Power Book 2 Ghost and Power Universe related. But as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.